I'm here today with Linda Rogers of Coca-Cola. Hi, Linda. We're happy to have you here with us today.
Hi, glad to be here.
So you just spoke on a panel on nonprofits, brands, and partnerships.
Yes.
Love to learn some more. What kind of things did attendees take away, or discussion?
It's a great conversation and a great space in which I think both sides need to come together at the table. It was about creating, and what I talked about is how do we create positive partnerships. So partnerships where both sides actually see mutual benefit. And I think one of the things we talked about is at Coca-Cola, I think it requires a little bit of a new skill set for marketers. And so, example, negotiating and partnering with someone like Six Flags, where, with the can of Coca-Cola, you can get $4 off your entry, is a little bit different of a conversation than partnering with somebody like WWF, Boys and Girls Club, American Dietetic Association, where you're kind of come in and actually have a different conversation. So I basically walked the attendees through some of the principles that we use at Coca-Cola and how we're trying to train our own marketing organization on how to develop these partnerships that work for both sides of the equation.
So we are trying to progress beyond a passive cause marketing type of relationship, which I consider CSR 1.0.
Yeah.
And I guess the partnership of the future is really more like how can the brand be involved and help out and provide the resources if the nonprofit doesn't have it, or the NGO or organization, so that they both benefit at the same time and help drive that cause, but simultaneously for the brand, they are getting that passive brand benefit from the affiliation, not passively anymore. Can you explain, or at least that's just my thought?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the examples I gave in the panel discussion was actually a partnership between our brand Diet Coke and the National Heart, Lung and Blood Institute. It's a very complicated acronym. So NHLBI and Diet Coke. And what the NHLBI wanted to do was make sure that women in the U.S. are aware that the number one killer of women in the U.S. is heart disease. So we hear a lot about breast cancer, but we don't hear a lot about heart disease. And women in the U.S. tend to look after their families first and themselves second. So making sure they're aware of the conditions that might result in heart disease was important. Diet Coke is a brand that's targeted at women. So there was actually a great brand fit, which I think is probably the first starting place. This isn't about philanthropy or, as you said, kind of CSR 1.0. But instead is about how do you find that unique brand fit and how do we leverage that. So through a partnership between the two, we were able to get the word out about the heart truth and how important it is for women to get their blood pressure and other indicators checked. We actually communicated that on about 6 billion packages of Diet Coke starting in the month of February. And then on top of that, sponsored the NHLBI's Heart Truth Roadshow, which went around to malls in America and asked women to get themselves checked. So that's the benefits to NHLBI. With the benefits to Diet Coke were credibility around health, which is important for a brand that's trying to promote itself as part of an active, healthy lifestyle. It's a great way you can get the enjoyment of Coke without all the calories. But on top of that, they also delivered brand equity, which is important as well. So Diet Coke actually aligns itself as a female-targeted brand with the fashion industry. So we actually put on a red dress fashion show in New York in conjunction with Fashion Weeks, brought to you by Diet Coke, and had celebrities who care about the cause of women's heart health come in, wear red dresses in order to promote the message as well. So Diet Coke got to connect with celebrities and fashion, which was part of building its brand equity. So when you can find those sweet spots between delivering what the NGO needs, but then also finding that sweet spot that delivers on that brand equity, that's where I think you get that active relationship that delivers the power for both.
So do you have like 3 best practices or tips for NGOs or brands that are listening today regarding collaboration and how they should build a dialogue and proceed further?
Yeah, I think the first thing I'd say is whatever perceptions you have of each other, throw them out the window. Because I think oftentimes for brand folks, engaging or interacting with a nonprofit starts with the belief that somehow I need to put the shield up and they're going to yell at me. because nonprofits for corporations, for-profit corporations, can sometimes be a little scary. In our panel discussion, we actually also heard from a nonprofit that said she spent a lot of time engaging with her board to justify working with corporations. So I think on the nonprofit side, there's a belief that somehow corporations, are here solely for money and aren't here to do good in the world as well. So I think letting go of those perceptions and really having an open, honest, and transparent conversation is where you can help find those sweet spots. So that's one. I think the second thing I'd say is make sure you really understand what are the equity you bring to the table as well as the NGO. Nothing can, build equity faster than finding that sweet spot, but also partnering with an NGO that actually doesn't make a lot of sense for your core brand equities can actually create more harm than good. And I think an example that's recently been in the media is all around KFC and the pink bucket for breast cancer. What does KFC have to do with breast cancer? So finding those connections is not just partnering with anyone, but finding the connections that are right for the brand and then right for the NGO, I think is the second area. And then the last area is recognizing that these partnerships don't build overnight. Marketing partnerships, you can find a new program, a new hot property, connect with them, build some advertising into it, and off you go. NGO partnerships are something that curate over time. And oftentimes requires that relationship to build. So give yourself the time to do that. And I think in the long run, you'll find those sweet spots that are great.
Great. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Linda.
Thank you.